know how to go about them, you are able to understand them. So in this lesson, we are going to focus on this part, cell specialization. We are going to look at these specialized cells, their function and their adaptation. So the first cell that I want us to start with is what we call a ciliated cell. This is an first step that we are going to start with, ciliated what? Ciliated cells. So you need to understand these ciliated cells, and the first thing that you need to start with is a function. What is the function of these ciliated cells? You need to understand that these are cells, we get to find them in the inner lining of the respiratory tract and the oviducts. So where we get to find them, the location, so let me say the location where we get to find these, it is in the what? In the lining of the what? In the lining of the respiratory tract. So respiratory tract and what? And the oviduct. And the oviduct. This is what you are supposed to know. This is where we get to find the what? This is where we get to find the ciliated cells in the lining of the respiratory tract and the oviduct. Aside knowing that, you also need to know that their function in the oviduct, they move the ovum towards the uterus. So you need to understand that if they are in the oviduct, their function, so if they are in the what? Oviduct. So if they are in the oviduct, what is the function? So if they are in the oviduct, the function is to move. They do what? They move the what? Ovum. So they are going to move the ovum towards the what? Towards the uterus. So towards the what? Towards the uterus. This is what you need to know and understand. But if they are in the what? Respiratory tract. So let me say if they are in the what? If they are in the respiratory. Let me say if they are in the what? Respiratory. We get to find them in two positions or in two locations. So in the respiratory tract, you discover that they wipe away mucus containing dust particles and germs. So what they get to do is that they sweep away. So let me say they do what? They sweep away. They are going to sweep away or sweep out mucus, and so mucus that gets to contain mucus that is containing dust particles. So say dust particles and germs. This is what you are supposed to know and understand. So I want you to understand all these things. So these ciliated cells, we get to find them in two positions or two locations. You can find them in the what? Respiratory tract. So in the respiratory tract, you discover that they wipe away mucus containing dust particles and germs. If we find them in the oviduct, you discover that they move the ovum towards the uterus. This is what you are supposed to know. So these are certain important details that you are supposed to know and understand. Aside knowing this, you also need to understand their adaptation. So what I mean by adaptation is the thing that is in them that makes them perform their function. So you discover that these ones, they've got some things in them that makes them perform their function. One of them is that there is a presence of a cytoplasmic layers that is called a cilia. So we've got one thing that we call, the one thing is the presence of a what? Presence of a cytoplasmic, so I'll say presence of a cytoplasmic layers. These layers are called, so these layers are called what? We get to call them cilia. So the presence of these cytoplasmic layers, These areas are called what? Cilia. This is what you are supposed to know and understand. And aside this, you also need to know that they have got high concentration of mitochondria in the cytoplasm to generate energy for movement of the cilia. So the next thing that you also need to understand, I guess, even as I'm teaching you these things, you are able to write them in your books. You are able to understand them clearly. We are moving together, so we are just moving like this. We are still doing with the basics. So we are still dealing with the basics. So these basics, I want you to understand them. Even as we are moving moving together, making biology very simple. So we are still dealing with the cells. So even as we move, I want you to understand this. So I've said that I've got high what? High concentration. So this word here is concentration. I'm going to write it like this due to space. So I'll say they've got high concentration of what? Mitochondria. So I'll say high concentration of mitochondria. High concentration of mitochondria in the cytoplasm. In the what? In the cytoplasm. So I'll say in the cytoplasm to generate what? To generate energy. That gets to generate energy. So to generate energy for movement. So for movement of the cilia. So this is a movement. So I'll say movement of the what? Let me do this. I create more space. Movement of the cilia. Movement of the cilia. This is what you are supposed to know. So how is the structure now? How is this thing? How is it? How is it? So you need to, I hope you've written down these two adaptations. So you need to understand these two adaptations. Even as we get to advance, we are going to talk about a lot of we are going to talk about a lot of specialized cells. So you need to understand their function and their adaptation, because questions do come in an exam. So I want you to write down everything that I'm teaching you, all the notes that I'm giving you. So you now discover that it is like this. This is how it is. It is like this. So if you just say something like this, just know that it is a ciliated cell like this. Then it has got these things here like this. This is what we get to call what? This is what we are calling a cilia. Then it also have a nucleus in it. This is what we are calling a nucleus. I guess you know it. It is a nucleus. We've got a cell membrane. This is a cell membrane. So these are some things that you are supposed to know. This is called a cell membrane. We also have a cytoplasm there. So that is a what? A cytoplasm. This is what you are supposed to know and understand. So it is like this. This is what you are supposed to know and understand. So we can write that even as we get to advance.